Hey, welcome everyone. This is Simplifying Strategy for the Highly Creative. I'm Allison, and we're going to dive right in with a little bit of a grounding and a clearing meditation just to arrive here and set our intention for the rest of our time. So I'll invite you to take a moment to close the eyes and just settle the body in. So you might want to adjust the body so that you are seated comfortably. The back of the neck can really lengthen, the spine can lengthen both directions. And you're just feeling the belly begin to relax and open.
Nice.
If you're new joining, I'll just unmute you. And we're just going to relax through the third eye space, through the throat, the crown, the heart space, the solar plexus, the sacral, and the root. And we're just feeling our energetic centers, just kind of noticing what's present and true, what's alive with us today. And we're just going to ask any and all energy that is not a part of what is highest and best for you to be removed from this space. Anything that is distracting, pulling, or leading you away from your core essence, purpose, and truth. We're just going to ask that it be removed from the field now. And anything that is, a belief or anything that's been attached onto you that doesn't belong to you. We're going to work with that a little bit later, but also just to affirm that now that we're just going to also revoke consent to any beliefs or any energies that are connected to us that are not a support of our highest and best. And we're going to allow a beautiful golden light right from the Godhead, so above the 12th dimension, to come down through into the physical body, into the heart, filtering through the body, down through the root, the base of the spine, and relaxing into the earth below us. And just feeling this golden energy begin to recalibrate through the field. And just calling in your energetic support team or whoever it is that, the guardian team that you are assigned at birth that work with you, that can support you in any form today. So we're just going to invite that in and bring in also a beautiful aqua light from the heart of the mother coming up through the body and into the heart. And as you tune in with the body and tune in with the breath, just noticing what you feel, noticing what you brought to the call today, noticing what is most alive for you. And just taking a sense of what would be most helpful to leave with today. What's been on your heart or mind that's felt difficult or confusing or something that you'd like support with? Right, just tuning in. And just being aware of the body's sensations, thanking the body for connecting and showing you what is most present and available for you. And just taking a full breath into the heart, exhaling out to the surface of the skin. Well, welcome. Hi, Anna Maria. Hi, Liza. Nice to see you all. So if you want to put in the chat what came up for you around the intention that you have or what it is that you'd like to receive support with. So it'll help me also guide the content of the call today. Of course, I have, a whole thing, but I can really tailor it to you. And then we can also work individually with the things that you have coming up. So if you want to type in the chat what it is that you'd like to leave with or what it is that you're having questions about, just give you a few minutes for that. Oh, hi, Julia. And if you missed the intention part of the meditation, because I had my eyes closed, we were just bringing forward what we'd like to leave the call with today, what it is that is most meaningful to you, what it is that you have questions about. Wonderful. Yay, Anna Maria. Um, did, did you have a hand up, Anne? Or is that just
Yeah,
a,
yeah,
oh,
sorry, I did. I
okay.
wasn't sure whether you meant like on a particular theme that was related to the title, which I can't remember what that was, or just generally. Yeah.
Um, I guess either is welcome.
Yeah.
Either is welcome. It's all, so whatever feels most present, but we're moving into talking about kind of the strategy of our work and kind of what's in the way of that. But if there's something else that feels really present, then honor that as well. Yeah. New frameworks and structures for my coaching practice. And excited to offer what I do. Beautiful to more people. Thanks, Juliana. Great. Um, Anne says work-wise, how to balance left and right brain, the cognition and the heart. Yeah, beautiful. Um, oh, you have to go, Samantha says. Okay, no worries, Samantha. Sophia says, thank you for this opportunity. More aligned to my purpose and evolvement in the community. Beautiful. Yeah. Julia says, Um, my intention is to get more clarity and strategy on how to share my passion more efficiently. Okay, great. Wonderful. So you're all in the right place and that's helpful. So I created this call. It actually just, I have my best ideas when I'm like in the bathroom brushing my teeth in the morning, and I'm just like, I have to lead this call called Structures for the Highly Creative. I remember writing it down because there's something about having a highly creative, and I'm going to call highly empathic, and also oftentimes highly spiritually evolved, that can be such a gift, and it can also be something that ends up stopping us from moving forward in ways that don't affect people who feel those things a little bit less, right? So people who are less creative or less spiritually drawn or less empathic sometimes can move forward with these strategies and these structures a lot easier. And I noticed the people that I work with and also myself that we can often come with a lot more doubts and questions and meanderings, and there's no wrong or right to it. It's usually part of the path. Um, but I wanted to offer something that could really give you what I'm going to call like the Cliff Notes version or a cheat sheet of what I can look back and say what I've done over these last 4 years to go from completely confused and overwhelmed to being full-time in my business that fully supports me, that I feel completely aligned and fulfilled in, right? So I did struggle for like probably a decade, trying to figure out, and I couldn't really quite get the clarity on it. I went back to graduate school. I got my master's in dance. I still had no idea how to talk to people about what I did or how to create a body of work that was really reflective of my natural, my soul calling. And what I discovered is that, most of us don't really align with the logic aspect, or we don't like looking at spreadsheets or facts, and like we're much more in that creative right brain, as Anne was, kind of alluding to in a certain capacity. And we can push away a lot of the structures because it just gets too confusing and too overwhelming, right? However, we do need some form of structure as a container to hold what we do. Otherwise, it just sort of flies around and nothing grounds it, right? So I'm going to lead you through that part of it first. And then the last portion of our time together, I'm going to talk a little bit about the things that could be blocking us and also some of the sabotage that comes in. Because I realized that not only was it important to have a structure and a strategy and a way of bringing my gifts forward, but I also really needed to learn and be supported how to get out of my own way. Because the reason I had not stepped forward up until then wasn't because I wasn't capable, and it wasn't because I wasn't good enough, even though that's what I was telling myself. It was really because there was these other subconscious layerings that were preventing me from feeling like I could. And once I actually cleared through these beliefs and cleared through and integrated them, more importantly, I was able to show up and it's like, okay, I'm okay. So this is really what I give my clients, and this is what I really want to give you a big piece of today. So we're going to cover both aspects today. So I'm going to pull up my, or I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can see this little sheet that I've created. And feel free to ask questions as we go. And move this over here. Okay, so I talk to myself out loud, so. Okay, so we're starting here with what I'm gonna call your offer, right? So without an offer, it's nearly impossible to have a business of any kind. And the funny thing is I couldn't even really, 5, 6 years ago, even understand what that meant. I was still so confused, right? Because I just felt like I gotta get online. I gotta do what I'm doing. I have to do this in a big way, but I didn't know what it was, right? So your offer is, as it says here, the lifeblood of your business. It is the thing that makes you either have a business or not have a business, right? So you can be the best at what you do in some regard. You can be the most incredible, gifted person at a certain thing. And I know each of you are in your, whatever the things are that you're birthing. And without a particular holding of what I'll call an offer, it's going to stay in the ethers and never really go anywhere. So an example of that is like, so most of you are familiar with, I have a body of work called the Embodied Dance Teacher Training, right? So that was a bigger offer that I birthed over time. It's actually an embodiment of my 20 years of life's work that I finally figured out how to talk about, which is what I help my students and clients with. But before that, I had smaller offers, because I think trying to sometimes tackle the bigger thing right away is a little bit like, well, it's too much, right? So the offer, again, as it says here, is the what you provide, right? And a lot of the time, this can elude you. It can be, I'm doing this kind of thing, but it's not quite right. Or I'm teaching yoga, but I know I have these other things that I want to do. And just to give you some context, what I was doing before I became, full-time in the embodied dance realm, I was running around nonstop. I was a yoga teacher for 20 years. I taught Pilates. I was a personal trainer. I was a college professor. I was a massage therapist. I was a Reiki master. I was a coach. I was a choreographer and a performer and a dancer. And I was doing all of these things at the same time. And I would have a nervous breakdown every 3 or 4 months because I couldn't understand how to keep up with my own schedule. But I knew that I loved to do all these different things, right? So the thing that I support people the most in, and the thing that I want you to start thinking about today a little bit, is how can you take the best aspects of what it is that you do that make you come the most alive and bring them under one umbrella? Because that is going to be the thing that you can start moving forward with. And if it seems too big, meaning like you have this, really long-term large program in you, you might want to start with something a little smaller and digestible until you get your wheels, in traction with how the structure works. So the offer is something that we think of in small terms and in big terms. So when I'm working with people, I usually guide them to start thinking about a short-term offer. This can be a workshop, this can be a 4-week program, right? This can be an opportunity for you to really deliver something that is truly speaks to a body of knowledge that you have that I want to say is easy for you to deliver on some capacity, meaning you know it really well. And it takes your particular clients or students on a journey from A to B or A to Z, right? So it takes them from somewhere that they are that they're not so happy or aligned with, and it takes them to this next place, which is that thing that feels kind of slightly out of reach, and they're not quite how to, sure how to do it on their own. So ideally, again, it's something that you are well versed in, that you have done, multiple times, that you feel comfortable sharing. And there, we want to start with something that is accessible for you so that it's not just a pie in the sky. Well, I'd really like to do that, but I haven't done it enough, right? Something you've studied that you don't know everything to it maybe, but you know it enough. And I will be transparent and say that the first program I launched was called Embody Your Dance. And it was an 8-week course that I launched in 2020 as everything was kind of shutting down. And the work taught me what it was. So I realized I had been studying chakras and movement for 20 years, and I was really ready to put something together. Like I had known what I was doing, but I hadn't done it quite like I was about to offer it. And Embody Your Dance now has become the first 2 modules of the Embodied Dance Teacher Training. So that birthed into the larger form of what I'm now offering, just so you can kind of see context. But before that, it's like all you need to see is the first step, right? The first step for me was like, I'm going to launch this course that talks about chakras and movement and how to heal through the body. Because this is something that I do. I know it well. I haven't done it like this before, but here is what I'm about to do. And I had this outline made, and I kind of refined it and went through it all these different times. And what you're ultimately going to become initially is a good listener of the work, because it's not typically going to come fully from your mind, right? So your soul mission is going to have the structure of how you organize it, but most often it's a fire in your belly of why you do what you do. It's a what you would love to leave the world with if you knew you didn't have that much time. Well, here's the thing, none of us really know anyway, right? But what is the thing that keeps coming up for you that you know really well, that people benefit from, and it would feel like a disservice to your time as a human if you left this world without doing it? And I'd love for you to share in the chat if like what's coming up for you around this, or um, what, if you have any questions. So I'm just going to kind of come back here for a minute if I can. Um, okay, no worries. Yeah, I'd love to kind of hear as you're ready to type in what's what your strengths are that you're trying to piece together and offer. Realizing I'm quite far from what I want to get back to offering. Okay, that can happen. And yeah, it can kind of come in waves where we get close to it and then we pull back, right? So I think that's a piece to it. Like we get close and then we get, sometimes the fear comes up, or sometimes life comes in, and there can also be some of the self-sabotage. So Juliana says, my offer of transformation is guiding people from confusion and lack of clarity to coherence and clarity, especially in the realms of career change, thriving with ADHD, amazing. And a philosopher and a coach, I offer a journey of self-knowledge, exploration, and beliefs. Amazing. So that's quite a large spectrum. And what I'm going to say, what I see in you that I see in me is probably you may be having a hard time figuring out how to like name what you do properly. And also like what, really being able to name, this is what I'm here. I work intuitively, so don't mind me. I just kind of, tune into the different things. So I'm hearing like it's like a naming of what you do, and also it's the naming of like kind of the next piece we're about to get into a little bit, which is like how to really speak to the struggle of what these people are looking for, and how to talk about what the transformation provides a bit, like in a practical sense. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay. Um, but I feel like you've really got, like I could feel the momentum of it. Like there's something really strong there based also on your experience. Like you've gone through quite a bit of your own work, and yeah, okay. Um, Jules says, I'm running workshops and classes, and I know what my expertise is: movement, energy, embodiment, breath, transformation, but I struggle with the structure to package it. I help people to reconnect and create better relationships with their bodies and souls, and to follow their passion. Beautiful. Yeah, so amazing, right? These are just like the things that I feel are so needed at this time, right? Getting people into their bodies, getting them to know their own power, getting them to trust themselves, and navigate the intense times that we're in. So yeah, this is beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I don't know if there was anybody else, but you can go ahead and share. So I'm gonna come back to the my screen share, and we're gonna keep going through some of this. So when you think about what it is that you want to offer, and I know a lot of you have, what I'm kind of getting the general sense is that there's this like incredible amount of knowing your work, and it's really just the naming of it and the organization of it, right? So what I wanted you to think about briefly now, and for those of you who want to do a strategy session with me, I'm going to talk about that at the end. That's also just another free call. We can talk about this a little deeper. But the idea is to think about, where is your ideal client starting from? And where is it that you want to take them, right? So where are they when you're meeting them, right? They are in a place where they're experiencing what? And again, just, taking notes, and what is, hard for them that they can't quite touch? And ideally, after working with them, and some of you mentioned this, a little bit on what you wanted to leave them with. But what would be like an identifiable like end result, or what would the end be like? That what would they have from where they started to where they go? So what is the beginning point and what is the end point? And let me know if that's kind of making sense. Yeah, okay, great. So I'm just going to let you sit with that for a little bit, and I'm going to tell you right now this aspect of the work in terms of the journey of the work and what we're going to get into next, some of this stuff took me like 6 months to really figure out. So don't feel pressure if you don't get it all worked out today, just to give you like to manage your expectations around what this actually looks like from what I can see and what I've led people through is that depending on where you're starting from and the skills that you have and how you're ready, it can take from anywhere from like 3 months to a year to fully birth it forward, right? And there's nothing wrong with that time frame, right? It's quite like a birth. Like it's quite you're gathering everything that you have, and it's a real big somehow nourishment and honoring of what you have and learning to steep in the value of it and um, organize it into parts, right? So a lot of the times we can get overwhelmed or give up because we think it's supposed to happen sooner than what it actually happens. So once you're on a trajectory with it and you have the support to get it going, it does take about 3 months to a year to fully birth and bring it forward. And then from there, it's just consistency, consistency. But, these are some of the things I didn't know. So does everybody have some steps? Or I'm not sorry, we didn't talk about the steps yet, but do you have kind of a beginning point and an ending point of kind of where you think people are?
Do you want us to type it?
Hmm?
You want us to
If you want, if you'd like to, yeah. Because if you have that, that's going to make it's so much crystal clearer for you, right? Of knowing people where people are when you want to start working with them and where you want to get them to in a short-term way, right? We can talk about the longer term. So yeah. Beginning point, lack of action, conflicting inner drives, confusion, and the end point is inspired action. Very clear. Great. So you're going to provide for them an ability to unravel the yarn ball, per se. Okay, amazing. Great. Anybody else feels free to share the yarn ball? Yeah. I have a new cat and I have this really colorful yarn ball and he likes to play with the string. So I'm always thinking about how that's like so much of us with our ideas. So they start with a desire to change something in their lives, a lack of confidence, trust, and trust within the self, and limiting beliefs around how they can change that. Amazing. So that's really clear. So much of your business is going to be built upon being able to articulate these things well, right? So the end point is for Jules, they fully trust themselves and then they have the confidence to do so. Amazing. So you are giving them the skills of self-trust and empowerment, right? So they can really know who they are and trust the information that they receive, right? So knowing where they're starting and knowing where they're going is an essential thing, right? And you are going to get better at naming this and talking about it all the time. But this is the essential part of the offer is learning how to talk about where your people are and where you bring them, right? And this is the thing that nothing in graduate school taught me or nothing I could figure out on my own. And so I'm going to come back to the screen. And so what I'm not going to do today that we can do on a strategy call is that I'm happy to support you because we're just going to work for an hour today. And you can do this on your own, is to think about what are the steps, right? So they're in a place of A, which is the things that you've listed, and you're getting them over to the other side, which is B. Write this down for later, right? So what are the steps? What are the processes that you take them through? that get them from there to there. Right, so make a list, right? So that's your homework. Or if you want my support, you can book a call with me, right? So the next thing I want to talk about is the 4 aspects of sharing your offer. So you'll see these little kind of blue things that I have on here. So it says Impact to Income Module 4. So I created a course called Impact to Income, and it walks you through the self-sabotage. It walks you through all of the main points of the strategy so that you can birth the offer and bring these things forward. So I include my Impact to Income course inside the Embodied Dance Teacher Training, and I also give it to my one-on-one clients. So this is a 9-module course. So this is also for my students. So I'm just placing that this is where it is an Impact to Income so that they know where to find it. So the 4 aspects of sharing your offer. So this is the big 4 that are important to come back to when you start talking about what you do, right? So people need clarity, right? So we can say, hey, everybody, I'm doing this amazing thing. But if we don't have these 4 pieces, often they're just going to keep on scrolling, say, oh, well, that's interesting. And they won't know that it's speaking to them and they won't know what to do about it, right? So these are the 4 things that you really have to name. And I work with everybody diligently to get super clear on each, because what we can do is not make it practical enough for people to understand. So meaning that we say we want to take people on a pathway of transformation, but that people don't know what that means, right? So we have to come sometimes really name the clarity of, like, say you're working with body image, like, you might say something like, we're going to take you from a place of not feeling comfortable looking into the mirror to a place where you can put on your favorite clothes and, like, strut into your favorite shop and just feel amazing, whatever it is, I'm just making something up. But just like being able to name like the practical side of like what that's like, right? So the first part of sharing your offer is naming what it is, right? Title is super important. I've had bodies of work that I've named different titles, and it's the same body of work, and what you name it is crucial, because it needs to speak to the depth of what it is, and or if it can also speak to what the result is or what people can expect to receive, right? So the what it is going to include what you're calling it. If it's a program, it's kind of when it starts, where it is, etc. Right? The second part, you can spend 6 months on. So this is the next piece. This is your niche, right? So the who it's for, right? So the who it's for is what your audience struggles with, plus what they'd really like to have, right? So they know that they are in a place where they maybe have low confidence, but what they'd really love to have is to feel a certain other outcome, right? So being able to name the struggle or the place that's feeling not so great for them, and alongside the desire, right? So the who it's for is the struggle and the desire. To give an example of that, most of you understand or you are familiar with my work. So in the Embodied Dance Teacher Training, I help people who are interested in movement, healing arts, who have these different backgrounds, who don't know how to bring their body of work into a cohesive program that they can offer the world, right? So that's exactly what I do. I offer a body of work for people who are struggling to put their work together, who have a ton of passion for healing in the movement arts, who are coaches, who are facilitators, but they don't have the holding or the clarity to be able to walk themselves forward into fully birthing a body of work and a long-term program. So that's where they start, and that's where I lead them to. So this piece, the who it's for, again, that can there can be several drafts of that, but that's what it includes, right? The third part is the outcome that they can expect, or what it is that they'll leave with, which is what we spoke about a minute ago, right? So you want to speak to what they're struggling with, and you want to speak to also what they can leave with, what they can expect that they'll have, right? So do you want to, what are some outcomes? What is a solution that you're providing, right? And being able to name really clearly in a practical sense what tools they will learn, what practical experiences they can tangibly understand. So take a minute for that, to think about kind of the outcome that you think that they can experience. And if anybody wants to share anything that they're realizing or coming up with. So Jules says the coherence between the inner and the outer world, the inside matches the outside. Amazing, right? So you're bringing them into a place of alignment, of perception of self and authentic self, like inner self. So I'm sorry, it's Juliana. Yeah. Yes. Sophia says, I have so much to offer. Yes, you do. Wanting to share my knowledge to others in a safe and creative, authentic purpose. The vision to co-create through self-compassion, joy, encouragement, respect, presence, integrity, music, and healing. Entitled Absolute Beginners. As an ex-professional dancer with decades of experience, I'd love to accompany dance classes in my local community. Yes, let's talk about that. And I'm sure that there's a bajillion classes you could also accompany. There's so many amazing dance teachers here. So yeah, I'd love to talk with you more, Sophia, because I really get a sense, for you, I really get a sense that it's centered around music. And being able to work within these other creative forms, but the music aspect is kind of the shining piece. So that's just, anyway, side note on that. But I'd love to talk with you more about that. Jules says, they overcome their fear of showing up for what they want and become the identity of what they desire. Amazing. So they overcome the fear of showing up for what they want. So you're kind of getting them past the, like, as you mentioned earlier, sort of the limiting beliefs, so that they can actually have a different identity of what's then possible. That's what I'm hearing. Okay, great. Amazing. Great. So gonna come back. So the last aspect of the 4 aspects of the offer, right, is the call to action, right? So the call to action is letting people know what to do in order to work with you, in order to join your whatever it is that you're doing, right? So we can often forget to do this part. So people can just read, our content, or they can read what we're up to. But if we often don't have a call to action, then people just kind of stay, well, that's nice, and then they move on, right? So the call to action: to learn more, click here, send an email, call here, sign up through this link. Yeah, so just that's the easiest part, right? So number 1 and number 4 can be the easier pieces, and number 2 and number 3 are quite meaty. And this is something, the 4 aspects of sharing your offer, this is something that you will come back to, I believe, if you decide to kind of work with this particular context. This is a framework that I use, I've been in this for a while now, and this is still what I would suggest in terms of thinking about how to talk about what you do, right? So this is what I just shared with you is what I'll call the building blocks of actually creating the foundation. So what we went through in a quick way is to give you a sense of what it takes to build the foundation. And this again doesn't happen overnight. This is brainstorming. This is, for me, I needed support. I think most people need support getting out of their head and getting into their own body of work. Talk about that later, but yeah, having the support to really understand and the soundboard for what we're sharing, right? So we went through the structural foundation, and the next piece I want to share is like what it looks like actually creating and running a business day in and day out, right? So creating and running a business day in and day out is these 4 pieces right here. So I put them into, and I wish I had this, years ago. Hope you guys can still see that. But so the 4 pieces that I work on every day in my business is connection, content creation, management or the admin, and then the reflection, right? So the connection piece is how you connect with your people. How do you find where the people are who are looking for what you do? I have a very simple, no cost lead generation strategy that I teach all of my students, which is how I built my business. I've never run paid advertisements. I did one last week on Instagram for the first time to check it out. And I'm going to say, like, anyway, there was some not good things about it because then it kind of squashed my natural engagement because they want you to start paying for advertising. Anyway, side note. But you can completely build a business without paying for advertising is what I'm trying to say. I built a business without a website to get going. I was just sharing on social media. And your connection is really the points of contact that you make with people. So being able to find the people who are the ones that are in your niche, right? And where are they hanging out? How do you connect with them? So again, I talk about that in the impact to income in module 3. And then, so the next part of this is your content, right? So this is how people know what it is that you do. And the thing that we can get lost in a sea of is what I'll call the little boy who cried wolf thing a bit, where sometimes we're just shouting a bunch of things out into the thing, but we don't really have anything that people can, there's not maybe a call to action or there's not something that they can be invited into. So we're just kind of putting out a lot of things and there's not maybe a lot coming back because people don't know, they don't identify yet themselves inside of your work, or they don't have a point of being brought into what you do, right? So your content is written posts, like the carousel posts on Instagram, videos, reels, emails. And the thing that's wonderful about it is that you can have a piece of content and repurpose it across many platforms. And you can take the same piece of content, put it in an email, make a reel out of it, and you can just take the same thing and just boom, boom, boom. It doesn't have to be an all-day procedure, right? The best thing is to really figure out for you what your strength is. Some people love to be on video. Some people are amazing writers. Neither is less effective, right? So it's really finding what your particular strengths are in terms of how you communicate the best of what you do. Ironically, although I'm a dancer, I'm not a visual person at all. I'm completely kinesthetic. Well, it actually probably makes sense, but I'm not visual. So oftentimes, like, I'll have an assistant and I just hand them my content to make it look nice because I don't know how to make it look nice. Like, I have no idea how to, I've gotten better with it, but I'm not really a person who does well with creating like straight up visual content, right? I'm great at talking about it or writing about it. So kind of thinking, what are some of the preferred ways that you like to engage about what you do? And we also may have some hangups about this because the content creation piece, this touches into the wound of the fear of being seen. So just checking in, like who has experienced this kind of like fear of being seen or fear of being putting yourself out there and like what's going to come back to you, or fear of like maybe I'm an imposter, maybe I haven't, quite done everything I should do in order to be in this. Like I would just love to hear, does anybody resonate with that? Has that stopped you in the past? There's also a lot of I talk about sometimes that I've had to move through, especially those of us who are healers. We have like persecution woundings, I call them, where our body remembers like the visceral thing of however many lifetimes ago where we lost our lives, we were exiled from the village for being the healer, for being the person, right? And our body goes, oh no, it's not safe to put this forward, right? So I'm curious if anybody, Julianne says, totally me, I know, offer incredible value. Yeah, really blocked. Okay, yeah. So this is a big piece to it. And thank you for sharing that, because this was also me. I was like terrified. You become like the best kept secret in town then, right? Because you have all these amazing things. And then you have all these less qualified people. I hate saying it, putting this stuff out there because they don't have the hangups that we do, right? So being able to lovingly walk through and see what those are. So Jewel says, absolutely, that was one of my greatest fears, holding me back, and one of the reasons I'm so passionate about empowering others. Amazing. Okay, so we're going to dive into that in just a minute here. The next piece, management, I'm calling it, or admin, right? So this is having basic systems and strategies that make things a little easier for you. I talk about this in my course on module 6, right? So this looks like, how do you simplify what you're sharing? Do you kind of have like, do you kind of have a day where you do your content for the week instead of just being ad hoc about it? Like, what are some of the systems that you have in place? Do you email people once a week at a particular time, right? What is your lead generation strategy? Like, how are you connecting with new people, right? So these are the things that are very important in the systems. And systems can also look very simply like having a calendar booking app where people can book a call with you, right? Um, having a landing page where they can learn about your workshop, right? So these different pieces of your, these different pieces that, these different systems that can hold what it is that you are sharing, right? So, and the strategies and the management as you go on, they begin to look a little bit more refined. Like some people will have like a funnel system. I'm not going to talk about funnels today because that used to give me a headache when I first started learning about this. But there's ways that deepen and ways that get a little bit more, I don't want to say complex in a way as you go about this. But really the admin and the management is very much leaning into, how do I make this feel good in my body, right? So you don't want to have a strategy and a structure and a system that feels awful to you. You don't want to get up and start emails at 9 in the morning if you hate that, right? So, ideally in the management side and in the admin side, it's also looking at how can you be in the game with what you're doing long term and not burn out, right? So I have this system that I take people through called the body rhythm exercise, where we, learn to understand like, what is your natural body rhythm? Because for everyone, it's going to be a little different, right? Some people love waking up straight and then getting into something about work. I need to move my body and write and be in nature before I deal with anybody for the day, right? And then I can work forever, but I need that little cocooning in the morning, right? Where I don't get disturbed. So, understanding like how you build in, systems is also how you manage your time and how you manage your energy, right? So, and then the last category here is reflection. So reflection is being in that consistent evaluation process of what's working, what's not working, what's creating way too much stress, what's creating good connection with people, how you navigate. And your business is a beautiful process of refinement that will just keep getting better over time, right? So yeah, again, this talks a little, I'm talking about the body rhythm exercise again in this. And the reflection part is also great to have either a mastermind group of people that you work with or a coach where you can bring the things that you're confused about that are not quite aligning for you, and you have a space to work through the limiting beliefs. You have a space to work through the things that are still healing in you, and you know, getting a place where you get feedback, right? So reflection. So these are the 4 parts of the business that you will live in once it's really taken off the ground. And other than that, it's just consistency, right? So I'm just gonna see if there, oh, have you guys, can you see my screen? Or you haven't been able to see the screen? Oh, you can see it, great. Hmm. It didn't look like I was sharing the screen on the last part. Was I? No, I wasn't. Okay, so sorry about that. I go back and forth here. So this is here. This is all the things I was talking about: the connection, the content, the creation, the management, the reflection. I apologize. So hopefully you have that all on the recording. And I'd love to just take a moment now to see if anybody has any particular questions about the material that we went through. I'm going to go over about 10, maybe 15 minutes today. So if you have to go, that's also fine. But just seeing if there's any quick questions that are coming up around any of this material.
Should I type
I
it?
think I need to stop the thing.
Go
Go ahead, Juliana. Yep.
Oh, I guess I'm at the stage where I'm like, you could say like exploring different niches.
Mm.
And each one like changes what I do. Like the core of what I want to offer is like coherence, as I mentioned, and like inspired action. And I don't know, I'm just curious if you have thoughts about like, yeah, I have like a very varied background as you
Mm.
do. And yeah, I guess just any words of wisdom for like trying on different niches.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you just said the most important word, which is trying on, because there's so much about this work. No worry, Anne. I'm looking forward to connecting with you next week, or this next week. Yeah. Glad you can come. So, yeah, the word that you just said about trying on. The thing that's needed, and I say this, you know, to a lot of my students, is that the confidence comes after the doing and not before necessarily, right? So in the trying on piece, it's really evaluating for you, like, who are the people that I feel the most fulfilled serving? You know, and being able to try a couple of different things and say, okay, I gave that class, I gave that workshop, I gave this sort of thing. And what I realized is the people that respond the most to what I do and the people that I feel most connected and fulfilled working with are these folks. And it takes a little bit of trial and error in a way. I want to say my first year when I was working with one-on-one clients and also doing the Embody Your Dance, I had a little bit of everybody. And they were pretty coherent, but it's become much more refined with time as I've seen, like, well, here's actually where the people are starting that I can meet them the best at. And I would try, you know, I would try out if you have 3 different ones, I would, you know, maybe plan out. And even in planning out, you might notice, well, this actually feels better. You know, like this actually I can sink my teeth into a little bit, but you sometimes have to kind of structure them out a little bit around like, this is what the content would be, these are who the people would be. And then you look at them and you're like, wow, that's the one that I really want to do. And really feeling the fire behind and getting in touch with your why, which is something I support my students in. So the why you do what you do, which is basically your personal story. So is that helpful? Yeah, okay, great. So I'm gonna, for the next 10 minutes, talk about kind of the clearing aspect of the work, because what I've found is that without, with just the structure alone, it's more or less, like anybody could do it. We just needed structure, anybody could do it, right? So for my healer creative friends, right, this clearing work that's been so paramount in my life is to think about. So I want you to write down, as we've been working today, what's the main like doubt or fear or concern that you have? Like, what's that little thing that's pinging you? Does everybody have um, something that they can kind of say, like, there's sort of something that I feel that's a little bit of a resistance? Like, as you've been hearing and navigating the different parts today, like, what have you noticed coming up that's like, oh, I'm still uncomfortable about that thing, or. Oh, I feel scared to define myself too early, that I will change and evolve. Yes. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? And the beautiful piece in a bigger regard, because I'm going to say that I resonate with that deeply, um, is that it's going to change and evolve naturally, right? And expand as you expand. And yeah, so scared to define myself, but also scared of not getting off the ground, right? Yeah. So this is beautiful, and we're going to dive into the body in a second here. And thank you for sharing that. And if I can offer something in that regard, it's that it's similar to what I responded to Juliana about a minute ago, where as you put something forward, you start seeing the clarity more. So it's almost like as you put the thing forward, it gives you the clarity, if that makes sense. Yeah, to choose and to find the clarity and consistency. Yeah. I had the same thing. So maybe we'll do a call together and we can kind of look at the different pieces and see like what the main thing that they fall under is. So as you're coming with this right now, I want you to notice so we're going to close the eyes for a moment. Where do you feel it in the body? So this doubt, this fear, this concern, when you close your eyes, what's activated in the body? And how would you describe to yourself how it feels? Like it's a tightening, like with all your senses. Like what's the color, the texture, the sound? And as you're tuning into this part of the body that feels this resistance and it's holding this kind of frequency or energy to it, and you've named like the visceral parts of it, just take a nice breath. Take a breath with this, noticing that you're safe, all is well in the moment. And I want you to just ask the body, what is the earliest memory that is connected to the body feeling that way? First thought, best thought, even if it doesn't make sense. So just asking it to show you where it's most familiar that you felt this before. And we're going to jump right to what was happening and what's the meaning that you gave What's the meaning that you gave to what happened in that moment? Because this is going to unlock something for you. So this happened and I made it mean, right? I had this event. I experienced this. I made it mean this, right? So now you're seeing what's living there that's keeping you, right? It's kind of holding you hostage in this way, right? So normally with more time, I would kind of lead into an either inner child soul retrieval multidimensional process. But for now, what we can do to clear it is I just want you to imagine placing, or you can actually place the hand wherever this is on the body right now. And we're going to bring in what is called the Amaria flame, which is this white blue flame, which is connected to the Holy Spirit or the feminine aspect of healing, and or the Sophia, actually, right? So it's this white blue flame called the Amaria flame, and we're just going to blaze this flame right through into the multidimensional field in the body where this is present and living. And you're inviting in the Holy Spirit or that divine feminine aspect of healing to feel this with you. You can even invite the presence of source energy, creator, if you call it God, to feel this with you, to begin transmuting. And it's like a white blue fire. And you're just feeling, you're letting the emotions just gently process. And just noticing how that is feeling. Again, normally I would take you through a much deeper, longer process, but that's just a very quick, clear way to move some energy. So we're just going to ask that this white blue flame just clear all timelines, beliefs, thoughts, actions associated with the meaning that we gave this. And that as we move forward into this new aspect of standing for our work and our mission in a clear, true way, that we are able to move through without the bindings. So we're asking to be unbinded now from this memory belief that has been shown. And we're going to imagine ourselves kind of walking through into a new time, sort of unbound from that belief, and just noticing as you walk forward, this kind of thing has kind of removed itself. And as you walk forward, imagining yourself receiving the things that you're calling in now, and they're more easily coming to you. And there's much deeper work we can do with this particular thing. So if it's really heavy for you, I invite you to also reach out to me and I can help you move through this a little deeper. But for today and for time, we're just going to transmute it again with this white blue flame, ask it to clear, heal, and remove. And I work a lot with the Christ consciousness. So it's not tied into any religious form, but really that 12th dimensional field of the Christ light, which is also connected to the Sophianic body or the divine feminine. And we're just asking that to support this healing, this transmutation. And we're going to let the new frequency now drop into our root chakra or the base of the spine to begin to re-imprint. Holding it at the base of the spine, and on the exhale, releasing it into the earth below you so that the earth can also hold it with and for you. And just noticing any gentle shifts and changes in the body. I'm just going to ask that the field is now sealed up. And that you receive the support to continue processing any emotions that come up around this. So, how was that? How are you feeling? That was a very, very quick in and out. Just checking in how everybody's doing.
Doing well.
Doing
Um,
well. Okay, great. Yeah, thanks for letting me know.
I was gonna type, but I'm like, maybe it's faster just to share.
Yeah, it's
I
fine.
found a block in my throat, dating to like age 11 when I was medicated for ADD, which I was for like 20 years of my life. It just brought it kind of home that the thing I want to help people, like, it just brought my mission home to my own story, really, of like
Amazing.
unsilencing and unbridling people.
Amazing. Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's super poignant. I love how the body is just like, it's got all the information right there. So I feel good. Have the insight. I feel structure taking my freedom away. Yeah. I used to feel that way too. Like, oh my God, how am I gonna, I totally get that. I totally appreciate it. So what I'm offering